Hi, my name is Rob Khleif, and I'm the host of the Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing podcast. And every week I interview multifamily rock stars, and we talk about how they've built incredible wealth for themselves and their families through multifamily properties. So hit the like and subscribe buttons to get notified every Monday when a new episode comes out. Let's get to it. Welcome to another edition of How to Build Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing. I am Rob Khleif, and I am thrilled you're here. And I know you're going to get tremendous value from the dynamic individual I'm interviewing today. His name is Rob Jolles, and Rob is a professional speaker, sales trainer. He's written books that have been translated into a dozen languages. His books have been featured all over the place, and he's got, I think, five-time best-selling books, five-time best-selling. His book I asked him to maybe chat about today is How to Change Minds, The Art of Influence Without Manipulation. He's also got a podcast called Pocket Size Pep Talks, which is right along the lines of what I do on this show, the Own Your Power Clips. So he and I are going to have a lot to talk about. Welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, man, it's great to be here. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah. So why sales? I mean, I know that you started out working, I think I read in your bio, you sold for New York Life and Xerox. Not why sales? Why did you transfer into training sales?
Yeah. Because there's a performance element to it. And I was a frustrated actor. Loved selling. It came naturally to me. It was raised by a salesman. That's what we did. And, when I ran track, I sold more toothbrushes than anyone else. When I was in Boy Scouts, I sold more first aid kits than anyone else. Yeah, I mean, that's a standard story with most salespeople, but I like to perform. And I just thought after selling for a while and getting some taste of training, boy, if I can take it to a high enough stage, it's got a real great performance element to it. So that's kind of what moved me into it.
So acting, basically. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, listen, by the way, guys, if you're sitting here wondering, why do I need to sit and listen to someone teach about sales? Your whole life is about influence. You're influencing your kids, your spouse, your significant other, certainly in this business, you're influencing partners. If you're coming to my boot camp, you're going to be influencing people there to connect with and build a team with. You're influencing brokers. You're influencing potential investors. And I call it influence instead of sales, but it's the same thing. You're basically selling them on yourself. And so this is a really important topic in our business, guys. So you definitely don't want to miss this episode. So, I know you work with a lot of agents and brokers as well as another sideline, real estate agents and brokers. But, just in sales in general, what are some of the mistakes that you encounter a lot, and when people are trying to influence and sell?
Right. Well, the first one you already got at, which is for some weird reason, people don't even like the word selling. And right. So, yeah, you and I, we can talk, to your classic salesperson, but I like the way you just set it up with, what about a parent? What about a manager? What about anybody who wants to take their idea, put it in somebody else's brain and make them feel like they thought of it? What about those people? So that's why I like the term, how to change minds and deal with that thing that's in the way, which is influence without manipulation. Mm-hmm. So, following your question, biggest mistakes people make, some are classic, not asking questions and listening, which I got to tell you, I don't have a boot camp like you, but I do 2-day workshops. Mm-hmm. If somebody was with in your boot camp or my boot camp, whoever's, and walked out, no matter how many days, and said, Rod, I don't know, I learned a lot, but I am committed for the rest of my life to asking questions and listening. And at strategic times, I'm going to be really aware when I keep my questions open. On the one hand, you and I would go, boy, that's all the guy got out of it. And on the other hand, I look at you, wink, and say, if that person's committed for the rest of their life to ask questions and listen and keep them open, they just went to the best school, boot camp they're ever going to go to. So sometimes it's basic. Let me jump on one other that isn't quite as basic.
Well, hold on. Before you move on,
go ahead.
I will tell you, that's one I struggle with. In fact, The only time I ever get less than a 5-star review on my podcast is not listening enough and interrupting because I get excited. And so that's the only hate I get is the fact that I interrupt because I get excited and want to interject something. But I will tell you, you're right. I mean, that quality, engaged listening In fact, guys, if you're coming to my boot camp or you're going to any boot camp, networking is a big piece of this. And if you become super curious about the people you are meeting, you'll be a networking superstar if you have incredible curiosity about them. So you're not trying to tell them who you are. You're listening to try to discover who they are. And that's active listening. Anyway, please continue with mistakes, brother.
Yeah. And I would tack up on the wall somewhere. Remember, the more that other person talks, the more they like you. Mm-hmm. So where Rod and I are at right now is, it's almost a yawner. People are like, that's all Jolles has got right now. He's going to tell us to ask questions and listen. I hear that all the time. Well, so do we as sales trainers, and nobody does it. So don't fall asleep on the basics. So then I said, let me get to a less basic. I give you 15 answers to your question, but I'm going to cherry pick one. Okay. I really think that a more advanced move is not just having somebody give you the blessing of telling you where their concern is, but you staying put. Don't fix it. Don't tell them about it. Ask more questions about it. Go deeper. And that's almost an improv in a way. You can't write these questions out beforehand. You're going to have to think on your feet. You're going to have to trust your instincts. But if you pause and feel it and feed more questions to the problem that brought you to this table, that brought that other investor in, if you feed more questions, you're going to go deeper. You're going to create urgency, and you're going to do the best thing you could as a salesperson.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. And, it's Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Though, if you have a deep interest in what they're saying and you're asking questions and you're again, actively listening. And then I love the fact, and then go deeper and tell me more, then they love the conversation because they're the ones doing all the talking. Oh, that's good stuff. So, let's talk about, let's say we've got one of the big hurdles for investors moving forward here. Operators, those are the people listening that are going to do their own deals, is going to be bringing investors in, because, with this recession, there's going to be a lot of fear. And of course, it's the best time to freaking invest in real estate, but investors are going to hide their head in the sand. So when someone meets with an investor, what's a way to open a conversation? What's an opening? Let's start there, and we'll talk about closing as well. And in the middle, we'll have objections. So love to talk about all three of those.
Hit me from every angle. Okay. So opening, we got about 30 seconds to get it out. There is no magic pill, but the closest thing I ever heard, Rod, was clearly I'm going to let you know who I am. Clearly, I'm going to try and give you a sense of, what I want to do in the conversation. But I think the diamond in the rough, and it's called a bunch of different things. Sometimes it's called an IBS, an initial benefit statement. Sometimes it's called a rationale. Sometimes it's just nicknamed a WIFM, a WIFM. But what's in it for me? Listen, Gordon Gekko was right. Okay. When he said greed is good, he was right. I'm a businessman too. When I get calls from people, I'll give you a few seconds, but what I'm waiting for, just almost chanting in my mind, is what would be in it for me to have this conversation or to come to this event or whatever it is. Don't wait for me to ask. Think about if somebody stopped you and asked it, how would you answer it, and then insert it in your opening. So greet me and get at that with them as quickly as you can. Then the other piece is, sure, I'd love to know what we'll do and how long it's going to take, but you appeal to my sense of greed. You're going to be putting together a good opening.
Got it. Oh, that's good. That's good. So, and this, we're talking basic sales here, guys, and some of this stuff may not apply in every situation, but this is really good stuff to know, to remember on the opening, to get right into what's in it for them. Okay. And then now let's say that you're trying to start with closing first, and then we'll get into objections. Let's say you're trying to get a commitment. Okay. They call it a closing, call it a close. Subjective close and assumed close. There's all these different ways you can close a deal, but let's just say you're asking them to invest the money. What's a way to lead into that?
Okay. I promise you'll find I'll hit you with your exact answer to your question, but please understand that when I tell you it's the easiest part of the sale, and I think a lot of people have heard that, what my New York Life buddies forgot to remind me was you got to do some other things along the way. That's what makes it easy. So let's assume that we're smart on trial closing, meaning I've got a commitment that you're ready to make a change. I've got a commitment that you know exactly what that change looks like. Maybe I even have a commitment from you that says, if I can prove to you I can do that better than anybody else, you'll give me a shot at working with you. So that's why we don't have to load up for this big, fast pitch. We got to take care of things and earn the right to get there. But when we do, Rod, I've actually always been a fan of what's called a summary close. I don't use the word to summarize or anything nonsense like that, but I like a trial close in my close. So when I say to somebody, hey, Rod, wouldn't you agree with what we've talked about? You're not only going to get that investment opportunity, but you're going to be able to network, all of which you said was important to me. And I'll pause. You can hear that in a sense, I'm trialing it right now. Because if you say yes to that, I'm going to ask you for your business. And if you say no to that, well, I'm not in the greatest of moods, but we'll spiral off in objection handling. But this is important. You ask somebody for their business and get the answer no. You just lost about 26% of your chances there. In other words, your chances reduced by about 26%. So I don't want to extend my hand, Rod, and say, hey, let's do business and get jumped. I want to make sure that wouldn't you agree, we're getting everything you're looking for. Yeah, Rob, I am. Now I'll hit you with a direct, hey, I'd love to work with you or whatever. But if you remember anything else from closing, if you just put a nice closed end trial right in the front, you'll take the guesswork out. Because like I said, you want to hit me with an objection, I'm fine with that. Don't hit me when I got my hand out and I'm ready to buy. Yeah.
Love it. So do me a favor and just recap a trial close.
Okay.
Wouldn't you agree something or something?
So if you quit real fast, I break down the way people make decisions as having really 3 decision points. The first one, which takes people a long time, is I'm not happy with what I'm doing, but I don't know if I want to do anything about it. So I'm on the outside after asking questions, maybe going deeper into those problems, Rod, saying, what do you think? Do you think it's worthwhile looking at some solutions? If somebody says no to me, why would I push forward and waste a lot of time? So the first one is that fix, don't fix. Are you whining or do you think it's worthwhile considering investment opportunities with me? We haven't even talked about which ones. That's one. Number 2 is, I want to make a change. Maybe that client doesn't exactly know what the change looks like. So now what we do is we sit there and we what do you need? Okay, how about that? How much? Maybe we measure. Haven't even given you my product yet. Now I want to make sure that's what it's going to take to make you happy. That's the second trial close. We call it a close on criteria. And the third one, which is old school, but boy, I just can't get rid of it quite yet. I don't ask it all the time. I know it will initiate contact, but a lot of times I still will ask, hey, I'm going to ask you a question. Maybe you've heard it a few times. Maybe you've asked it a few of your clients, but if I can prove to you I can do it better than anybody else, is there any reason why I wouldn't have a realistic shot of working with you? That's that pre-commit. People think, it's kind of an old school, but you know what? It will flush out the objections. And I'll leave it with this. How many times have anybody listening to this podcast put a lot of time, effort, perhaps money into a sale that not only did you not get, you were never going to get? When you pre-commit, you'll find out if there's a brother-in-law in the business. You'll find out that other piece. So I like all 3, if that helped.
Okay. No, that's very helpful. Yeah. And you guys, you may not hit it this hard. In fact, you probably won't hit it this hard, but it's good to have this stuff in your tool belt. If you're really, bumping up against a hard stop, you've got money hard, you need to get some commitments, you need to get some money in, you need to get them to get off the fence. Some of this stuff will be very helpful. So let's talk about objections. Okay. So maybe you can give us an example of one that might pop up in this scenario and how you might handle it.
Right. Well, the funny thing is, and I work with NASA, I work with Toyota, I work with Disney. I mean, tangible, intangible. I've been at this 40 years, Rod. And yet there's one objection that sort of just wanders into everybody's arena. And that is fear of change. Okay. People don't actually say it, but I don't like perhaps the investments that I have. I've been whining about it for a couple of years. Well, okay, here, let me show you. Here's what we could do. Right. Yeah, let me think about it. So it's really comes down to frequently a fear of change. So that's one. And the thing is, I like to be proactive rather than reactive. We'll get to reactive in a second.
Right.
Once again, Rod and I, how did we start? We started with trust. We're going to let that customer talk, keep those questions open. We then went to problem solving, not only what the issue is, but going deeper than any human being has ever done with this person sitting across from you. Okay. Mm-hmm. And that's what a problem solver and a consultant does. Now, if I get an objection, it'll be a legitimate objection, hopefully not fear of change. The most important thing I can do, whatever objection, I don't have money, whatever it is, clarify. It may be a misunderstanding. It might be a drawback. Okay, we can learn some great answers. The best move you can make is to clarify. This way, you won't appear defensive. This buys you time to think. This makes sure you don't bring up an objection that wasn't even asked. All of us have done that. So first thing I want to do is settle back and make sure I understand. Then I'll handle it as either a misunderstanding or a drawback and begin to work from there. But I think clarifying on the front end and confirming on the back end is what people need to remember from this podcast. That center section, that most of your listeners have been working with for a while. They know how to handle that. Clarify up front, confirm on the end. You'll do much better with the response.
So let's talk about a confirmation example of an objection, and just pick one from. It doesn't matter from what vertical someone is selling.
Yeah, okay. I sold copiers for Xerox. Okay, it might be just somebody saying, I want something that's a little bit more user friendly. Okay, and so we would clarify by user friendly. What are you comparing it to? And again, allowing them to express, but you asked for a confirmation. When I tell them, a lot of people feel the same way you do, and I felt that way too. I'm running Feel, Felt, Found. But what we found is blah, blah, blah. What I want to do, Rod, is just finish rather than look at somebody, nod their head, say, does that answer your question about the ease of use on this product? So we can put it to bed. If they say no, we should stay where we are. Usually they'll say yes, and you won't hear it come up again. That's why I like to confirm. Get rid of it.
Interesting. Okay. I know in one of your books, you talk about not just teaching people how to sell, but you spend time teaching them why to sell. Can you just elaborate on what you mean by that?
Yeah, I wrote a book with Simon & Schuster, did very well. They're not talking about any books, but I'm just saying sold well. Every hardcore salesperson still loves it and reads it, and I get a lot of emails on it. But I wanted to write a book that where as a guy's been in the pit for decades, I keep blowing in there going, here, we're going to do step one. Here's what we do. Here's what we do. Here, participant guide. Here's a book. And I thought, I wonder what percentage, particularly when we step out of the classic sales arena, I wonder what percentage we're missing by saying, here are the 4 things you need to do to clarify an objection, who don't even see themselves in a selling position. So I wanted to get into the moral implications of why we sell. We have doctors, they're important. Now, they're not all great, but most of them are really good, and they help keep us well. We have lawyers, some good, some not so good, but the good ones help us interpret the law. You know what salespeople do? They help us get past our fear of change and fix things before they become way too big to fix. They save us from ourselves. And I not only wanted to have a conversation, I wanted to go deep because I heard you mention it one time, sort of, he's going hard. Persuasion isn't always pretty. So a lot of times I have to ask you questions that don't feel so good. I need to believe in what I'm doing, that my cause is right, or I'm going to be manipulating. If I'm doing this because, hey, I need a sale this month, I'm manipulating you. If I do it because you're going to be out of business in 2 months and I can see it coming, I have no problem taking the gloves off. That's the why part.
Okay. Got it. Well, I want to tell you guys, when you're a steward of other people's money, you better believe in it, and you better believe in your abilities, and you better not dabble. You better, give it all of your energy and you force yourself to become an expert. And I think, I hate to say it, but I think there's going to be some pain in these next couple of years with people who are aggressive on deals and didn't take it from that angle. So we'll see if I'm right or wrong. But if you want to check out Rob, go to jolles.com. He does speaking and does training and sales training. And, what's another, before we cut loose, what's another area of this conversation that I didn't ask you about that you'd like to elaborate on?
Yeah. And by the way, thank you. As from one podcast to another, I always forget to ask that one. It's a great question because I got one more for you and we would have missed it.
Good.
I really think, the trilogy of persuasion is: one, we need a process; two, and we're talking about, we need to know why we're doing it. We need to believe in it. But three, I think we missed what, I missed another thing for 30 years, not just what we say, but how we say it. So in other words, in the old days, we used scripts or whatever, but maybe you're listening to Rod and you go, well, I'm going to be just like Rod. Only we write down what Rod says, we do it. It doesn't sound like Rod. Well, we got to commit to who we are. But I really think a study in pitch, pace, where we pause. In other words, the spaces between the words. That's what betrays us, right? So yeah, it's not just a process for investors or real estate or sales, whatever. Yeah, there's a process, but I would remind people to rededicate yourself to, like music. You know the words, now learn the tune. And people are dying for that. They really need that, particularly, as you said, Rod, in a tough market where there may be some pain. They're looking at you. I want to make sure you not only say what you need to say, but you say it the way you need to say it. And we need to pay more attention to that.
Yeah, no question. I couldn't agree more. And that only comes through trial and error typically, guys, or practice. I mean, you can practice it in front of your dog or your spouse or whatever, but it comes with trial and error. You got to be comfortable with it. And I would add one thing, and that is just be yourself, be authentic, be who you are, good, bad, indifferent. People can feel it when you're being real. Would you agree with that, Rob?
I would. The problem is, Rod, it's like music. By the way, 1,000% agree with it, but there's a percentage of the population that can't get at authentic. And so that's where we need to help them a little bit. And sometimes 20 seconds on this, but just getting into character. In other words, well, okay, you're not feeling it now, but when did you feel it? What was that day like? Climb back into that moment. Now say the same thing you were about to say, and boom, it pops a little bit.
I love that. Yeah, when you can think back about a time that you really killed it, you were in the freaking zone. How were you breathing? How were you standing? How were your shoulders? What were you thinking about? And come at something from that energy. You're on it. No, good. That's really good stuff. All right, Rob. Well, listen, it's my pleasure to meet you, brother. I appreciate you coming on. I'll probably have you on again. We'll have to think about, maybe some more advanced topics as it relates to sales. But I do appreciate you taking your valuable time to come on today, bud.
Hey, it was an absolute pleasure. Good seeing you, Rod.
Likewise. Take care.
Rod, I know a lot of our listeners are wanting to take their multifamily investing business to the next level. Now, I know you've been hard at work helping our Warrior students do just that using our ACT methodology, which is awareness, close, and transform. Can you explain to the listeners how they can get our help?
You bet. Guys, we've been going nonstop for 3 years, building an amazing community of like-minded people. And our coaching students, which we call our Warriors, have had extraordinary results. They've purchased thousands and thousands of units. And last year we did over 1,000 units with our students. And we're looking to grow this group and take it to the next level. We're looking for people who want to follow a proven framework that's really step by step, and then leverage our systems and network to raise equity, to find and close deals, and to build partnerships nationwide. Now, our Warrior community is finding success in any market cycle. So if you're interested in finding out more about how you can become more of our incredible network and take advantage of the incredible opportunities that are coming very soon, apply to work with us at mentorwithrod.com or text CRUSH to 72345, and we'll set up a call so you can check us out and we can check you out. That's mentorwithrod.com or text CRUSH to 72345.